Ah, what's in there?
There's fucking blue. Oh, he's gonna do it again.
Oh,
How much? Oh.
it makes it look colder.
It's like the iciest drink ever. What's he got? Tell us about your food tonight.
Talk about kitchen appliances. Our freaking dishwasher blew up today. Leaked water everywhere.
Which fridge?
Dishwasher.
Oh, your dishwasher. Why would you store food in your dishwasher?
No, talking about kitchen appliances.
Still, you should put food in your dishwasher. Why do you put your dishwasher in your fridge?
Cool. I don't know. She's still not on fire though.
And your fridge exploded.
Yes.
Wow, did she know that?
Alright, last time. So, you guys finished packing up your tent after an evening's rest and continue along the path up towards the Wizard Tower in the mountains. You continued most of the day until Chug noticed some patches of ground in the nearby trees which was burnt with sort of spot fires, very, very low. So, you decided to investigate. And after a quick trip, you found two massive humanoids in the clearing in the distance. And Doderick attempted to get their attention by throwing a rock, but he wasn't strong enough to get it very far. One, however, began to play his bagpipes, which infuriated these two large humanoids, and they charged you with their giant clubs. They turned out to be ogres. Um, However, they didn't prove to be much of a challenge for you, and you quickly put them down, and with Lefner firing an incredibly accurate Eldritch Blast at a fleeing ogre, took the final kill. Uh, Remembering that ogres like shiny things, you investigated to see where they might have been living, and in their little hovel you found a satchel of coin and a strange cloudy orb amongst some busted swords and the like, and distributed amongst yourselves. Now you return to your horses, uh, which you left by the roadside, and you made a camp in the night that went by relatively without event. Doderick did nail a dead squirrel to the side of the tent, but aside from that, everybody slept pretty well. It's now the morning, you've woken up, and preparing to leave again for the day, knowing that you still got a couple of days travel before you get to the tower. Uh, what do you do?
Give the orb to Chuck. Say, here, Chuck, you'll make more use of it.
Alright, so in Lefner's inventory, there is an item called a wizard orb,
Like, just removed it.
and you should be able to pass it along pretty easily.
Someone else on the whole time in 2025? That's scary. That's why I I think you should use it first and see how it works again. And then we'll think about other things. Because you can take a hit, right? This? Well, I can take a little bit. What's the word?
That's a conjuring die.
So every die weighs half a pound. How big is it?
The die, I don't know, it's just a small sort of cube, bigger than your normal set of dice.
Cool. We all pack up our tents and get on our horses.
Alright.
And go to dismantle this big house. Like treasure. Okay? Secret. Yeah, I thought that was Mission Gone, wasn't it? I don't know. TM, is it Mission Gone? Or do we get Mission Gone now? Looks like Godric's eating it right now. Drinking its blood.
It's a bit bony though, not much meat on a squirrel.
Let's back up and move out? Yep.
Alright, cool. So you jump on your horses.
I'd like to set the tent on fire.
Fires?
No, I'm just.
That's murder. Okay.
Alright, cool. So you pack up the tent, it takes you, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, you roll it up in satchel, collect your things and jump on your horses and continue up the path. That's alright, that's a given. Actually, talking about the donning of armor and such like that, I think there's not an actual D&D 5e rule. That's just sort of a given that you always, like, there's no penalty to sleeping in your armor. It's up to you if you all want to go that far in terms of your role play. Like, you take it off when you go to sleep. You don't need to tell me that. We just say when you go to sleep, unless for some specific purpose you keep it on. We'll assume you take it off if that's the way you want to go. Otherwise, you just sleep with your armor on. Oh, it just changes the dynamics of the ambush. So, if you get ambushed, you're not wearing any armor, you got a lower AC until either you can get some on, or you just don't play it that way.
I'm good either way.
So it's up to you how you want to do it.
I would be sleeping in my comfy robe.
Ah,
I have a fine blue robe that I stole, so I like doing that at night.
we can do that too.
Chuck's all blurry. Does that mean he rolls attack with disadvantage from now on? With advantage from the tent.
Okay, he's drunk goggles on.
Yeah.
Alright. Anyway, you jump on your horses, you continue up. The path is actually getting quite narrow, and you need to go single file. There's plenty of overgrowth of vines and trees hanging down. Well, you probably could make it to abreast. You'll have to fight with the nature. So, single file. Who's leading the order? Yep.
I'll go second. I will go third.
Yep, perfect.
Alright. Cool. Alright. So you start making your way to after the storm and the previous night, it's cleared up. Everything's still quite wet in the ground because the sun hasn't sort of begun to get rid of that. But it's a cheery day. The air's crisp, but the sun's out. And so you make your way. And so, Jug, can I get you to roll a perception check for leading the pack? 8 So the first half of the morning goes by. You notice a few goats and other sort of wild animals, a few birds, rabbits along your trip. But It mostly goes without a vent. Now, are you guys making a fast pace or just a steady pace?
Steady.
Yeah, probably steady. Can we still smell smoke or is it gone?
I suppose with the perception, you do smell a faint bit of smoke, but it's not strong. All right, so hey, it's I would say that it's not strong enough to do it, but you got peace of mind knowing that you didn't smell it at the beginning of your trip. You're starting to smell it now, so you feel that you're on the right track anyway by continuing up the mountain. Lunchtime comes and goes. You don't really have any issues there, and you continue on. Now, can I get you to make another perception check for the afternoon, Chuck? 2. You see nothing. No, you see a lot of things, just nothing really interesting. Give me 2 seconds. I'll get all of you to make perception checks as well. You're sort of looking around as a group.
I got 6.
15.
What?
Nat 1. James isn't even looking. He's just fiddling around on the saddle. He's got it tangled through the trip and just trying to untangle it. The one of the hoof parts sort of comes really, really loose, almost about to snap, and he's trying to desperately tie it back on before it falls off completely. Now, Dodric and Chug, as you are sort of moving along, you notice a very brief shadow quickly pass nearby and then disappear. Up ahead, so Dodric from behind it just starts stealthily accelerating a horse up ahead, where you saw this shadow. Now the shadow, it looked quite large, and in between all the thicket and the forest and such, you sort of briefly start from the left and move to the right across the road up ahead, where it disappeared. You run up, and can I get you to make another perception check? Which direction are you looking?
To the right.
Yeah.
That's the direction it went.
Yep.
I got a natural 20.
Natural 20. You look to the right, and you see
A bear. It's a bear.
yeah, right. With the thick bush and such, you don't see anything directly, but you do hear a couple of grunts and squeaks, and it sounds like panic, and it is coming in the distance, and you hear some ruffles of bushes and such like that. You think it's a language, but it's not a language that you understand.
I'm gonna stealthily dismount my horse and approach the north.
Can I sort of aim my maul and say move and sort of point to where the monster's trying to...
Oh, you haven't heard it, so only Doderic has heard this. You saw the shadow?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this scared me. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy
Ah,
doing?
Okay. Yeah, sure. You can do that.
I broke my shackles.
the
Yeah.
the metal plate that you put your foot in the saddle has just fallen off Lefner's horse. It's on the ground.
Yeah, so I'm dismounted trying to fix that thing.
Alright, so Chug, you've said that there's movement.
Yep, I'll dismount my horse and tie it to a tree and then sort of run after it.
Okay. So, yeah, so you jump off, and you begin tying it to the tree, and you look up, and Dodric isn't to be seen. You've seen him, what you believe has disappeared into the bushes towards the right, but you didn't see exactly where. Sorry, Dodric, can I get you to roll stealth check too, please?
12.
12? Okay. So, Juan and Lefner, are you just following Chug's lead at this point? Lefner, you've looked up and you've seen that Chug is now off his horse and tying it.
Yeah, I very quickly drag my horse over to where Chug's horse is and join in on the hunt. Yeah, I believe in Chug's slow-wittedness, yet unremittingly.
Okay. So you'll tie them up on the side of the road. You have tied them in, like they are visible, but you're now all off and now pursuing Dodric. Now, are you stealthily doing this as well, or are you just moving at a normal pace to try and catch up?
I'm trying to catch up, so no stealth.
Okay.
I'm also no stealth, but I'm going to. How long would it take to remove leather?
Remove.
Yes.
Leather armor is mostly just bound by a couple of straps at the bottom. It sort of folds in half, and you pull it over your head and then tie it around. It's sort of like a leather chest plate. It also has a couple of shoulder bits as well, which are all sort of loosely tied underneath. So, um, probably a few minutes for leather armor.
Okay, I'll leave it on.
Apologies, give me a couple of seconds.
Dodric, which way are you going? I remain silent.
Is this the Heroes of My Magic 3 soundtrack?
It's Diablo.
And it's still Diablo. Okay.
Yeah. All of Diablo 2, I believe.
It's my screen acting for me at the same time. While waiting, I cast minor illusion and make a mini judgment because we don't know where Dodric is, and I point at it to Chug and say, Chug, I found you. I think you'd have to roll for that, Chug. Yeah, against my perception. Let's roll off. Let's see if you've got a new one. 14 plus perception. Plus 6. 20. Go on. Can't roll again. What am I rolling against that? Your perception maybe? Or would it be insight?
Probably insight, right?
Yeah, it'd be whether you believe it or not. So I'd say insight or perception. You believe. Do either way. look, Chug, I found Dodric. Why are you going over there? That's not.
Alright.
Uh,
So, Dodric had. So, were you convinced, Joe?
Well, apparently,
Alright, well, while you guys are mingling around, Do you tell him that you're Fibbin one? Or are you now all just stranded having some fun?
You keep walking and these chugs just stare at us and having a laugh. How long does it last? It lasts a minute, that's a bit too long. Is it solid?
You know, it's not solid. You can go up and put your... Yeah.
I'll walk up and tap to it and then I'll realise it is magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job, Chug.
I think you should start correctly because you lost me.
Alright, what's happening?
Quickly, can I get you guys to tell me what languages you speak? Just so I can double check that.
Common.
Draconic and Elvish.
Yep.
I have Celestial, Common, Elvish, and Infernal.
Yep. And Dodder?
Look at this fucking guy. You speak everything, don't you?
Don't speak. Fuck.
Speak the language of combat.
Sorry, what were your languages, Dodder?
Common and halfling.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't hear the language, but it sounds like a series of grunts and sighs as they sort of like as they're sort of speaking. But it's quick, it's loud, and it's a sound of panic. Now you with your role, you are sort of chasing them, but they are also fleeing away from you, and they're fleeing at a faster pace. And you're realizing that they are getting distant from you.
Would I, the speed that they seem to be going away, do I feel like I'd be able to keep up with them and maybe...
You feel like you would be able to keep up with them, but you would have to break stealth and move into a bit of a run.
I think I'm gonna, like, run back to the horse then and tell the others what I've heard and what direction I think they're going.
Okay. So you make your way back. It isn't hard to find them. They're standing quite tall, and they're moving in your direction as well. And you can hear the clanking of Chug's armor as well. You quickly find them, and you relay what you have seen.
I try to mimic the language that I heard to Lefnuff to see if he might have any idea of what it sounds.
Okay, you get you to roll performance.
21.
You, with that perception roll, you heard the language very, very clearly, and you pick a couple of points of it and reenact it beautifully to the rest of the group. Unfortunately, nobody else understands what is being said either.
Can we have an example of it?
You've got your example. Oh, my ears are bleeding.
Ow.
Now, if I could, I will get each of you to roll an intelligence check. Yeah, as a group. I probably should have got you to do one before, Dodrick, but yeah, get you to do one now.
13.
That 20.
3.
Oh.
Oh, James, you recognise the language as being Goblin in dialect, but you don't know what was said.
So you reckon that they sounded like they were needing help and they were running away?
They sounded scared.
What scares goblins? I like
A bigger goblin. Chug. Maybe we should go kill him. Yeah, let's kill him.
The dragon. Daddy, would I know what they fear?
Goblins. Get you to roll
History?
Yeah, history.
Yeah. Where's my history? Plus one. I got a 20 there.
20. Hold on a second. I'll just bring up the monster sheet for
Not
myself.
natural.
Very not that. Because I don't want to like the frenzy dragon thing. Basically, like I don't want to chase it and just have nothing get behind me.
It's kobolds that you're thinking of that are friends of dragons. Goblins, however, are just more sort of, they're a pack race. They sort of have safety in numbers. A lot of things. They raid warbands and scavengers and such like that. They'll keep to small spaces and tight spaces where they can't be seen. They rarely sort of come out in the open and attack unless they feel safe with the numbers. Goblins generally fear those that are bigger than them. That could be bigger goblins. That could be other larger creatures as well. But there's not a single fear of a monster. Just generally, if it's bigger than it, they'll cower from it and hide from it unless they feel that they have the numbers to overcome it.
Something not too scary, but yeah, he's pretty
Fuck
tiny.
you, Chug.
But the shadow you saw, Chuck, was quite large. Did you say?
Could have been multiple goblins standing on one spot.
Look, you're gonna trust what I say these days. Let's say the sun, the direction of the sunlight made their shadow really. Or there were 50.
When it comes to killing stuff and wanting to set it on fire, I trust you 100%.
Alright, good to know. Let's ride and chase them down and kill them and take their gold.
Alright. Probably another ogre that's been scaring them off, but I'm not scared of ogres.
We ride.
You're going back, getting the horses and riding through the bush.
Yeah, we're chasing down the goblins. We're gonna kill them. Kill them good.
On
Put my crossbow away and get out my sword.
on horseback or on foot?
Yeah,
Horseback.
Alright.
Charging.
What else are we gonna ride? Chuck?
Oh, I'm carrying a sweat shot. 3 might be too much.
Hold on, I'm just trying to figure out. So I didn't expect you to take the horse. I need to figure out something quickly. Sorry. Okay, so you go back and get the horses. You jump on there and you start riding the horses through the trees and bush. Now, this is rather difficult terrain to move around all the trees and such. So unfortunately, so that means that you move at half speed. But it's still it's easier for you guys. You're not straining yourselves, and you're basically making pace while conserving your energy.
If I roll really well on something, I want to ride full speed.
No, that's not good. No. You can, if you want to move faster as a group, you can all make an animal handling check.
Let's do it. I only get +1, so whatever.
I got a 1.
I got 3.
Wait, what are we rolling for?
Animal handling. To try and maneuver your horse through the bushes.
Wait, do I need to, or is it because those idiots are trying to go faster?
You don't have to.
I got a 6.
I got
18. So I'll do it as a group. So you guys, your horses are getting stuck in amongst the trees. Your saddles are catching on branches and pulling in the horses. It's panicking the horses. As a result, you're moving slightly slower than a normal pace. Maybe about 20 feet every round, or 6 seconds if you're in combat. But you're sort of making pace. As you're sort of moving along, again, the shadow passes overhead. This time, because you're aware, you see that the shadow is, for lack of a better term, huge. The shadow would be about 30 or 40 foot wide at your best guess. And it just sort of flashes and then moves forward. With the thick canopy.
I think we can't take it.
We can take it.
Alright, let's take it. You've inspired me.
I'd like to cast Disguise Self on myself to appear as a goblin.
Fairly sure dragons are these goblins quite good. I'm not an expert, but
So Bondi just transforms into a goblin wearing leather armor, still sitting on his horse.
And then dismount my horse
prestidigitation
and
on.
scurry off towards the shadow.
Okay.
I'd like to cast prestidigitation and really shiny up all his gold stuff. So when the dragon sees it, he's like, oh, nom nom. But I don't think
There's no dragon.
Anyway, Dodric scurries off and dashes into the distance with the horse. Sorry, did you tie it up or did you just...
No,
No, you just left it there.
I just let off it and
Gone?
I tie his horse up.
Okay.
thank you, Les.
You don't know I did it, you took off.
Yeah.
The other two, what are you doing?
I'll dismount and tie it up and follow along, but slowly and carefully.
Okay. So Dodric is sprinting off into the distance. You guys are being a lot more cautious, so he's getting further and further away. Dodric, after a short while, you start to hear the voices again, fainter. A couple of minutes it took sort of scurrying into the distance and following in the direction of the shadow. What you see, can I actually get you to roll perception again, please?
15.
15. Up ahead, now the ground that you're on, it's just a very slight incline, so you're running uphill just slightly. But up ahead, you see, like probably a good 200 feet away, you see all the branches of the trees just crash down, and just birds and animals just start, scurrying out, snap twigs, just scatter as debris just goes everywhere. And then, as quick as it happened, it's all still again.
Well, I'm gonna continue making a steady pace in that direction, but still.
Okay. You guys are still sort of catching up. Dodric, you get closer to where the twigs and branches and such are. You see a large, sort of furry humanoid, about chug size, sort of dash off to the right, and duck down and hide behind a rock. Now he's on your side of the rock, and you can see him, and he's just staring up into the air. Can I get you to make an intelligence check, please, and see if you recognise this?
12.
12. You're not sure what it is. You got a couple of possibilities. That given that you've heard Lefner confirm that you've heard goblin, you think that these perhaps might be bugbears, which are larger, more tougher, brutal humanoids, but have a thick fur with them. And he's spooked and panicked.
Are they hostile?
Generally, yeah.
I'd like to stealth towards it.
Okay, get your roll stealth check.
He's friendly. We can have a friend hug bear.
Our
22.
22. So you very quietly sort of move towards it. As you start getting close, close, I mean, you're still about 60 feet away. He looks up into the air quickly, and then he bolts off into the direction of where the twigs and branches were all snapped from earlier.
Did I get much of a look at it?
Yeah, as I said, is that furry sort of humanoid. Was wearing some sort of clothing. Looked to be leathers on the top with a bit of a loincloth or something just hanging down around his waist. And he took off.
Does it look like a good bloke?
Hard to make out at this point. You are 60 feet away.
Well, I'm just going to follow in that direction, stealthily.
Okay. You other three are starting to catch up. You arrive in the area which Dodrick was initially, but you can't see where Dodrick is, and you've now lost sight of him. Can I get you to all make perception checks, please?
21.
21. You see a humanoid up ahead, running away from you. It looks furry in nature.
Very what?
I said it looks furry in nature.
No, it's
Looks furry.
No, we'll follow it.
The Dodrick is a goblin at this present point in time. Goblin that can't speak goblin.
I think,
Hit my head.
Is it slightly shinier than it should have been?
Hey, no, there's nothing shiny on this one.
It's not him.
given that it's humanoid size, it's probably bigger than the goblins, and I think that might be what's tricky. I want to chase towards it.
Okay. You start following towards it. When as the goblin, sorry, not the goblin, the humanoid, as he gets closer to like a bit of a clearing, uh, this giant eagle-looking bird swoops down through the clearing and just snatches him out of the ground and then takes off in a matter of seconds. Now this bird, it is huge. It's about 60 feet wide, at least.
I've seen this in Lord of the Rings.
We need to catch this bird and tame it.
Oh my god, Dodrick, his photo.
I know. It's going to be great. Our adventure starts here, guys.
He's doing the good thing.
And we found a bunch of rings earlier. On a wizard card that could have an eye on it. If there's an eye on it, guys, we're playing Lord of the Rings.
Okay, well, I'm going to make sure that we don't head into the clearing, into the bird's line of sight, and just stay on the tree and try and yell out for Dodrick to see where he is.
I'm stealthing as if I'm going to reply.
Oh. Yep.
What's happening? What's everyone doing?
We just saw some giant bird come, so we're panicking and he's yelling out for you.
I remain silent. If I can.
Guys, Dodrick's dead. I assume the bird got him. I shrug and start walking back to my home.
5 years from now, you see Dodrick walk towards you.
Hey, well met. We thought we lost you.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm still trying to find out what this giant thing is that was crunching trees.
I assume it was the bird. There could have been multiple birds hunting.
Could be.
But they're babies. You can go steal a baby bird.
Would I have seen this bird as well?
I get you to roll intelligence again, please.
20, not natural.
That was the DC that I set too. You know this bird from the brief glimpse of it, you believe that it could well be a rock. Now, this appears to be a smaller rock, and a rock is a bird of prey. They live in solitary. Generally, at full size, their wingspan can outstretch to over 200 feet wide. This one, you think, in the chaos of everything that you saw, you would put an estimate of perhaps it'd be about a third of that size. But generally, they're incredibly dangerous.
Has anyone ever tamed one?
Not to your knowledge.
It's gonna happen. Would I have seen it? Am I aware that it was there?
The bird. You certainly saw it snatch away the bugbear out of the ground.
Did I see where it went?
It went back up to the air. I guess you roll perception if you're trying to discern where it's gone.
19.
19. It's flown up away from you, and it's disappeared beyond the mountain range up the top.
One day. Cool. Alright.
I don't think Guardian on this is actually.
Do I think that the bird was responsible for the big shadow and the Russell tree?
Yes.
How far away do I think it would... The direction that the bird went, does that appear to be the direction that we were heading towards?
That was the direction that the bugbear was running.
So not the direction that we were heading
No.
towards the tower?
No, this is out off on the right, I suppose, from the road again.
How long do I think it would take to walk towards where I think the bird might...
Not so certain. The rocks, being such a large size, it can travel considerable distances very, very quickly. They generally nest on top of mountaintops.
So like days, hours?
If you have picked the right direction, maybe days.
Alright. So nothing here for it.
Given that I haven't heard from Dodrick, I'd say to the other guys that we should probably head back to the horses and make a meet back there.
I agree, and go back to the hole.
I'd like to get my rope and walk straight through the field where I saw the bird snap.
You're gonna get your rope. All right, so a little goblin is now standing in the center of a very crudely made clearing as the birds snatch through the trees. Now looking up into the sky with a rope.
So I'm trying to look like a good piece of meat to a bird. Just going to wander through just in case one happens to come at me. If that's not the case, then great. Otherwise, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to jump. And I'm walking back towards where I think the others might be. To head back where we can.
You stand there looking up into the sky. Can I get you to make perception, please? Once more.
10.
10. You hear an audible screech in the distance.
Oh god. I
Uh,
start screaming, oh, guys!
Too far away to hear him.
Yeah, I feel I'm already back to the hole. I've just experienced nothing. Could have been a bird shit.
Would I think that it might be coming towards me, or is it just the bird out?
You could. Unable to discern with that perception to know if it's getting closer or further away.
I have a minor illusion of a rock over my...
Over yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. As you cast the minor illusion over yourself. Now, you can see through the illusion, can you? Or is that block all line of sight? I'd imagine it would block line of sight. It wouldn't be transparent.
It just appears as it's similar to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you fully covering yourself with this rock, Dodo?
That was the idea, but I suppose, yeah, I'll do that. I should still be able to listen, even if I can't. Because it doesn't have any physical substance.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I'd be happy to like listen intently to my surroundings, see if anything nearby.
Okay. You cast the rock and you wait there for a second or two, and then again you hear another audible screech.
Getting close.
Getting closer.
Still gonna sit here.
The other three,
How do they go?
the other three have left you. They're on their way back to the horses. You sit there in your rock and just wait for a few minutes. You don't really hear anything. A few minutes more. A few minutes more. And you hear another screech, but fainter this time.
I'm gonna stealth back towards the others.
Okay. As you start stealthing back towards the others, you hear a tremendous crash in the distance. The rock claiming another victim.
Was it me?
Hey?
How far away was it?
You would guess in abundance of 200 or 300 feet. You don't have line of sight to it. You just heard the crash and snapping of twigs as it went through the trees once more.
Pony could be used as bait. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm gonna continue heading back towards the others.
Okay.
While we're waiting, I asked Chunt to say a prayer to our lost friend Dodrick, and then I slap his horse in the arm, and we all go the other way.
Which direction does the horse do anything?
Hey?
If he slaps my horse, is it just going with them?
It's tied, isn't it?
Yeah, we untied it because we don't want it to stand around and die. We want it to live free now that Dodrick's dead.
Did you really? Alright. You've untied it. Hit.
Oh, 63.
Well, James isn't here to say what he does, so I'll wait for him to hop back. Perhaps he'll stop you.
I'm listening to you guys do stupid shit, and I'm like, better wait till we come back, at least till nightfall.
So one is untying Dodrick's horse and whacking it. Are you stopping it and keeping it near?
Yes, I say give him till nightfall.
So the horse makes it a few meters before James, Lefter grabs its reins and sort of pulls it back in. Anyway, you sit there and wait, and Dodrick appears about 20 or so minutes later behind you guys.
I tell everyone, guys, there's this giant fuck off bird. We should tame it. We should like push Pony out there. We'll use mine, it's fine. I can ride Lon's horse. And then it can come and try and eat it, and then we'll catch it, and we'll just beat it into submission until it. Cool, you guys agree?
Charles, don't think we have enough saddles.
You don't need a saddle, you just grip onto the feathers.
Don't you want to mount?
I will mount it without a saddle.
How will you do that?
Grab onto the feathers.
I'm going to be angry.
Do you think Frodo rode the bird with a saddle? No.
It's magic, and they'll
Do you think Gandalf rode the bird with a saddle? No.
You seem to think Frodo had a choice and he was right. The eagle scooped him up and that was it.
You guys. What do you guys want to do about this giant bird that could just come and try and eat it?
I would like to wait till I'm level 20 and then come back now and battle it.
I don't think we have to level 20.
If you don't-
Where's Lesnar? Where the fuck is Lesnar? He always just wanders up.
Hey, look, there in the background is Harry Potter.
I didn't even see that in the background there.
Lesnar, what do you want to do about this bird?
I think the bird's going to be a deadly distraction if we just go towards the south.
Alright, let's do it.
We will definitely come back and battle it to the death and kill us on screen, and we can all ride around on giant birds.
Oh, that sounds great. That's the dream.
You get like a tiny bird because you're a small man.
I'm cool with that.
Alright. You all now mount each of your horses and continue back on the road and back towards the path on the way to the tower. You make the rest of the day. Dodric is now no longer a goblin and has resumed his normal halfling self. You get to nightfall, and it's started to get very, very dark. Cloud cover has moved over. It's getting incredibly cold and frisk as you guys are climbing higher into the mountains. The air temperature has dropped a considerable amount of degrees now. You can continue to travel in the night if you wish. However, you'll have to roll to see for each hour of travel to see if you earn points of exhaustion. I don't know the exact rules. I'd have to look that up, but
Based on what we know, how far are we from the Wizard Tower?
you think that you're about a day to a day and a half away from the Wizard Tower now.
Nah, I say sleep. I keep going till we find a nice, convenient, safe campsite that we can make safe.
Okay.
Or a giant tree.
Not more of
Tree.
You continue along. You continue along. Um, and the terrain has now changed. So the cliff face that you used to have on the left is now leveled out, and now you have a mountain ridge beginning to encroach in on the right. Still thick with trees and cover and such, but that mountain, you're actually starting to walk very close to the base of this mountain. It's rather steep and cuts straight down into the ground. It's not a smooth slope up either. And after about 30 minutes or so, I'll get you to roll perception, please.
Fuck's sake, 7.
4.
18.
18. So you continue on up the road, and about half an hour or so later, Doderick, you notice as the mountain's edge gets closer to the path, a small opening into the mountain.
Like a cave.
Could be hard to tell at this distance.
Chuck, there's a cave. Go check it out.
Okay. You head over. You see that there is indeed a cave opening, a hollow cave, not very deep. It's big enough for your rest for the evening. You go in, have a look. Can I get you to make a perception, please? 17. You don't see anything. And I get you to make a survival check, please. 9. And you don't believe that this cave has been used by a creature of some sort as its dwelling either.
Alright, cool. Let's sleep then.
Yeah, I go to sleep.
I exit the cave to tell the others the cave is coming. They don't know that yet. I wake one up so he can actually walk in. I'm not dragging him down.
Yeah. If there's a big tree, I'm gonna sleep in that.
Okay.
But what else?
No, I don't want to sleep in the tree. I want to sleep in the nice warm cave.
Can we easily see where the cave ends?
Yes, it's not very deep. It's only maybe 30 or so feet deep and sort of narrows and comes to a point.
Would there
Would
be...
we see a long rest?
It'd be long. It's the evening.
Do a long rest to avoid exhaustion.
short rest. What kind of rest are we doing?
It's the end of the evening, so you want to do a long.
Yeah, cool.
Before we go to sleep, I suggested Chug that we should get some wood, put some stakes in at the back of the cave so we can bring the horses in.
Still goes out and finds some big middle-sized trees and something.
May help.
While they're doing that, I prepare the cave and make it home.
Okay. You start a fire in the cave.
Make a good house bitch.
Cleans the cave up. And I sing lovely tunes as housewife does.
Okay. So you sit down, you make a small fire. You prepare, your food from your rations and such. You set up the tent inside the cave, and make it, feel rather nice. You feel rather safe inside of here. Dodrick, can I get you to make perception, please?
8.
8. You go outside looking for quite a large tree. However, where you are at the moment, and given how close you are to this edge of this mountain, the trees are not being able to grow thick and strong. They're more smaller and shrubby in sort of nature. You'll have to sleep in the cave tonight. Right, you guys all bed down, get ready for a rest. Who's taking watch, and in what order?
Is it still light?
At this time, after lighting the fire, eating, setting up the tent and such, there's a very small amount of light left outside before the sun disappears behind the horizon.
I'll let one of the non-nighttime disappear. That's
I'll go first.
Okay.
There's only one, let's just admit it, one.
I thought Chug couldn't either. Huh? Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's just you.
Just you, I didn't know first.
I'll go second.
I'll go last.
Okay. You three bed down. Dodrick, you head outside. The evening is now quite dull. However, the cloud cover overhead has cleared. There is quite a bright three-quarter moon outside, casting a good, decent amount of light. And you can see pretty well. Perhaps about 20 feet or so. You can see rather clear with the moon's glow. Can I get you to roll perception, please?
20, not natural.
Cool. You notice a couple of mountain creatures. A goat, not a squirrel.
A ghost.
Goat, not a ghost. Mountain goat.
Nice.
It's up ahead. It's probably a good 20, 30 feet away. Can I get...
A knife.
Are you throwing the knife, or are you...
I'm throwing it.
Are you throwing it? Get a attack roll, please.
17.
17. Get your roll damage.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you trying to murder a goat?
7.
You milk a
7.
Did I surprise it? Do I get my sneak attack?
You get sneak attack.
19.
19 damage.
No, sorry, that was to hit. So this is actually a dual wield thing. So that's,
Okay.
that's 6 damage, which brings me up to 13. And then if I do my sneak attack,
Yep.
Throw it?
He has thrown it. Because
That's how it works.
he gets sneak attack if he has advantage on the attack roll, or if it's if the creature does not know that he is there.
17 total.
17 total.
Yeah.
Your knife just whizzes through the air and just sticks straight into the neck of the goat, and it gives out a sort of a bleat as it just sort of it takes off a bit of a canter. It goes about 3 or 4 bounds and then just keels over on its side.
Breakfast. I'm gonna drag it back to the cave and just like pin it against the front of the cave.
Okay. Drag. It's. Can I get you to make an athletics check for me? You being the size that you are.
18.
Um, the goat, it isn't a huge goat, but you're able to drag it back. It takes you a good 3 or 4 minutes or so. You drag it back to the side of the cave, and you just pick it up and rest it up against the cave wall.
Actually, I'm gonna move it and put it right next to one. As he sleeps.
God, head in the bed.
So yeah, it's gonna face Wan's face. And right next to him, and its head will be facing you.
Okay. You set it up. There's a goat next to the goat's head next to one. What are you doing with the body?
Oh, well, it's still attached.
Oh, okay.
Walking next to it
Okay.
with the head facing him.
And it's still bleeding and blood's going everywhere all over the tent floor. um, anyway, your rest. You go back inside and continue your watch. A bit smug about what you've done, getting him back for all those shitty pants that he's done to you. And you continue your watch, but you don't see anything else. Nothing of interest anyway. Your rest comes to an end. You head inside and you wake Lefner.
I'm like, what?
Why the fuck is that?
So I've done breakfast.
Why the fuck is that blood on my shoe?
No, it's just on one.
God damn it. It smells like goat in here. Did it shit itself when you killed it?
Probably, yeah. Look, it'll taste really good in the morning. Ron's gonna cook it.
You haven't even let it drain of its blood.
It's draining all over one. It's fine.
Looks like you pissed it there.
Look, this is happening, alright?
Okay. Go to
Go
sleep.
do your watch.
Hey, go to your watch.
I go to the, I sit inside the edgewood of the cave, so I'm hidden, but just look out to the cave front for my watch.
Okay. Can I get you to roll perception, please?
7.
7. You peer out and watch. Pretty confident that haven't really seen anything today or tonight. Your watch comes to an end. You go inside and wake Chug.
Alright, wake Shug and tell him don't step in the entrails. Fair enough.
Shug looks sad and concerned. Puts his hand over his eyes, covers him up, and then drags it over to the fire and starts skinning it.
Can you to make a survival check, please?
20.
20. You skin it with ease. You've done this 100 times before. Comes off. You remove all the entrails. You butcher it, beautifully, and have. By the end of your watch, you have these large, pretty meaty steaks, several sides of them. Probably enough for a day's rations for everybody. Um, you're inside. How Ned, did you go outside and watch, or you just skin and it'll take you a good hour, an hour and a half to do what you're doing. Do you go outside and watch as well, or do you just butcher the goat?
After butchering the goat, I just stand by the entrance to the cave and sort of watch it.
Okay. Can I get your roll perception, please?
9.
Alright. You don't see anything. You're content that there's nothing threatening outside, and your watch comes to an end, and you wake up one. One, you wake up, pool of blood is right next to you. It seeped into your sleeping mattress. It stinks. You got a bit of it on your robe.
I look around and I'm just like, I don't even remember getting this drunk. What the fuck? And, I just start prestidigitating myself clean. I feel that, one's woken up in worse situations and just, he's
Just
used to
accepted it.
weird shit. Yeah, it's just like, alright, don't remember drinking, but that's usually how it goes. And, I just prestidigitate the place clean, hope no one notices. Swear Chuck's a secrecy before he goes off to bed. No one can know what happened.
I put it on the shelf and just say, apparently it's goat for breakfast.
No, how much of the goat's left? Like, is it all chopped up? Like, is the skull still there?
Uh, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't carve up, we don't eat the skull. That's not what it is.
Does the goat have horns?
Yes.
I would like to spend some time seeing if I can fashion a helmet out of the goat skull. Like a little, it's not necessarily a scary, like a useful one, but more just one that looks like horrifying, you know? You see those evil goat skull things, you're like, what the fuck is that shit? When a dog comes running around a corner, you shoot stuff, and I want one of those. I want to fashion that.
What do you have on your inventory? What kits do you have?
I have a knife. Oh, I have a dagger. So I'll use that to scrape all the flesh and stuff out of it. So I'm
Yep.
left with like the white skull.
Do you have like a tailoring kit or a tinkerer's box or something like that?
You didn't give it to me yet.
Ah, I did not. Well, are you
Well,
proficient? Are you
well,
proficient?
sounds
No,
good.
that's okay. I forgot about how we started. Um, are you proficient in any of those?
Actually, can I scrap that idea? Can I make bagpipes out of this? What's like skin? Like some custom goat bagpipes.
Chug has skinned it very, very well. It's mostly in a single piece. So you look at it and think, yeah, perhaps you could. You don't have the materials and such to be able to do it here, but certainly if you were to keep the skin, you could make it at a later point.
Cool. I do that. I get what bits I feel are needed for the skin, and then I go sit there and just whatever bits of meat are left, and I don't want to
You keeping the
have it
head
on
too.
curious. But
You keeping the head too.
yeah, keeping it. I figure that'll go well on the end. Like I'm talking like I'm essentially going to be blowing into its ass. It's going to kind of like
um, I'll get you to add a goat's skin and head to your inventory.
cool. And now I can chill out.
Cool. Can I get you to roll perception for your watch?
Non-natural 20.
20. You look outside, and you hear the snapping of a few twigs. You're unable to see where it come from. It's out of sight. You hear it come from the left. You look to the left, but you do not see what caused the sound. Now, sorry, can I get an idea of where you're standing? Are you just standing at the cave entrance, or have you ventured outside?
I'd say I'd be chilling in the cave entrance. I don't want to get cold on.
Okay, so the cave walls will be obstructing your peripheral vision on the left and right, if that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've heard the twigs snap. and you've leaned forward, not fully out of the cave and looking to the left, but you can't see what may have caused that.
So are we on like a cliff face, or are we just in the side of a hill?
In the side of a hill, effectively.
Could we get above where we are? Like, or is it, you know, like, if this was our cave,
Not easily.
so we probably get that. I cast precipitation on the ground and draw an arrow to the left. I leave a marking that looks like an arrow to the left, and I start venturing that way.
Okay,
And
so
obviously, not just psycho or something.
okay, so you've okay. I get what you've done. So you're leaving the arrow for the other three to find in case you.
So when I'm abducted, I want to stay there or too far.
Can I get you to make a stealth check, please?
10.
10. You walk out of the cave and outside and checking around. And as you're walking, you snap a few twigs of your own. It's a loud crunch sound as you're going along. Moment passes. You have a look around. And do you venture? How far out of the cave do you venture?
I'd say enough to get a good view of everything to the left of the cave. I want to be able to see what's going on out there.
Okay, so you go out probably about good 15, 20 feet. You venture not along the cave wall, but you go out a little bit as well. You have a good look, and you can now see the edge of the cave wall. You peer down there for a little bit. You watch for a few minutes to try and see if you can spot anything.
I'd like to specifically wait for 10 minutes while I ritual cast silence over our cave entrance.
Okay.
Means I don't turn a spell slot, essentially. And that lasts for 10 minutes while I have concentration. So I'd like to concentrate on that now while I'm looking for the rest of it.
Now, when you ritual cast, that takes a good amount of your focus. I'm not sure if...
It does while I'm casting it. So, I don't know.
So, if you would... Yeah, you can sit there and cast it, but while doing so, your perception of the world around you, your focus is on the spell and casting that. So you do that?
I don't want noise coming out of that cave.
Okay.
Well, that means they won't be able to see. So I would... yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Alright. So you spend the 10 minutes. You successfully cast the spell. Now doing so, you feel that the cave is safe at this point. No one else can sort of hear anything coming out. No one can hear anything going in. It blocks, the spell blocks sound both ways, yeah?
No sanctions created. We do not pass through a 20-foot range. Yeah, so it can't pass through. So essentially, I'm blocking that. Okay.
Yep. I'll get you to roll another perception, please.
Yeah, you guys are dead if someone knows where it is. Just saying.
12. You peer around, but you don't see anything else. There's no further sounds or snap twigs. You're about to walk into the cave, and you see a few rabbits and such just sort of hobbling around up ahead with your dark vision, about 30 feet ahead. Their eyes sort of glow a little bit when they look in your direction, and they sort of hop off.
I would like to pop them viciously. Yeah. So I unleash a string of insult places subtle attempts which reduce within range. It's a cantrip, so I don't believe that'll break my long rest. Will it?
No, it's effort.
Done that, or am I calmly just
Well, look, I'll say that because you're at the end of the long rest, you don't actually rest any further. You've done your 6 hours of uninterrupted, so I'm okay with you doing light activities. The ritual cast isn't exactly intense. It requires a bit of focus, but it's not excruciating or anything like that. You're able to cast it effortlessly, hence why it doesn't burn a spell slot. It doesn't require a huge amount of mental exhaustion to push out the spell. Cantrips, certainly. You can cast that without having to worry.
I cast Vicious Mockery on one of the rabbits.
Alright.
It annoys me.
Do you have a phrase for the rabbits?
Rabbit. Easy.
Now, is it a save for the rabbit?
Hit DC 14 wisdom.
Fails.
Takes one. Takes 1 damage.
1 damage.
And it's got disadvantage on its next attack roll.
You just watch one of the rabbits just hop along, pause, and fall over to the side. It just sort of slumps. The other rabbits just sort of, they want Mosey up to it, sniff it. He doesn't move. And they just sort of hop off, disappear.
I go get the rabbit.
Okay. You go get the rabbit.
Yeah, I just get the rabbit and put it on the fire.
Okay.
Nice rabbit.
You skin it and prepare meat, or you just throw the whole rabbit on the fire and just let it burn.
Yeah, I want to kebab that fucker, and I want it to be some crispy skin, burn all the fur off, That's literally burning in the cave now, so fur is literally getting burned off.
I get you to roll survival. 6. You make a kebab out of it. You skewer it, pop it on the fire. Are you making it to eat it?
I hope so, but I'm more experimenting at this point.
Okay, so
I know that there's a big pile of goat there. Now that I know it wasn't me in a drunk cave somehow covered in blood.
You're still uncertain of where this goats come from. It's just, goat steaks just sort of sitting up against the fire, drying out. But you make this kebab skewer, you cook it, looks okay.
And I keep keep a lookout until
Yep.
everyone wakes up.
Do you eat it? Yep.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Also heating up everyone else's goats, because I figure everyone wants some nice warm goat to eat for breakfast.
Okay. Your rest finishes. Everyone else, you wake up. It's pretty early in the morning, probably about 5 or so in the morning. You wake up and there's some hearty goat steaks that are being cooked for you, and you grab some of the more biscuity stuff from your rations and make a bit of a meal out of it. One has his rabbit kebab, which he's trying for the first time as well.
So I offered that out to Dodrick. I like steak. It's been hard times. I offered rabbit I thought, because I was out adventuring this morning. I caught a rabbit. I'm not a good cook, but it's not a kebab.
I sort of look at Juan and I take it from his hand and I'm just like, I acknowledge.
Hey?
He's speaking Goblin again. I know that. Goblin.
Yeah, I just kind of grunted him and appreciation.
Okay.
Be good.
Alright, so now Dodrick, he munches on the rabbit kebab and the steaks and everything. You guys all finish your breakfast and such. Dodrick, can I get you to make a constitution save? 14. You eat the rabbit kebab, but it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel like it's been prepared well. You're not sure if that's deliberate intent or not, but it sort of goes down and upsets your stomach a little bit, but you manage to hold it down, and after about half an hour or so, your stomach settles. Okay, but it didn't quite sit right as it went down.
You also have hair
No, it was just, probably the wrong part of the rabbit which was prepared is probably more likely what has happened. You guys finish breakfast. You pack up the tent. You pack away your goat steaks. You wrap them in what you can find and what you have, and you bag it all up. and hop back on the road again and continue to head up the mountain. Are you going up the same order as you were before?
Yeah, I think that's probably our normal.
Your normal order? So I've got Chug, Lefner, Wan, Dodrick.
Good with that?
Okay. Right, so Chug, can I get you to make a perception check? You're lead in the pack. Given what you've seen so far of the ogres and the that giant bird and the bugbears, you know there's a bit of activity around here that is potentially quite hostile. So you're actively looking around. So I'll get you to make a perception check, please.
5.
5. Sorry, all three of you, all four of you, will you all be sort of looking out now, or you just sort of leaving it to Chug to lead the party?
After seeing the giant death bird, I'm definitely looking around.
Alright, so Chug, I'll get you to roll with advantage. Because you're being assisted by the rest of the group.
17.
17. So in the morning, you're heading up the path, but you don't you don't see anything out of the ordinary. It's still forest and trees and stuff. And by the third day, you guys being on the path, you're starting to sort of get, you're eager to get to your destination. Now, this morning, if you break at a fast pace, you could potentially get to the tower before nightfall at a very fast pace. Otherwise, if you continue at your pace at the moment, it'll be the midday tomorrow.
It's fast paced it.
I just want to get the bush off the horse.
No, you can take it, just punch the bird.
Sounds good. Fun.
I'll protect the charge, it's all good. Got a dagger ready. Killing me
You
out.
go fast if you go fast. So we'll not.
I'll probably be rude. Yeah, let's go fast. Fuck it.
Okay, so I'll just explain what happens when you go fast, so you guys sort of know. There's a penalty to your wisdom and perception abilities, traveling quickly. Also, you get to travel quickly for 8 hours a day. Beyond 8 hours, you have to make a check each hour, and the DC is 10 plus each hour past 8 hours. So the DC will be 11 for 11 hours. On a failed saving throw, you suffer exhaustion, or 1 point of exhaustion. And the exhaustion, the first point, is disadvantage on ability checks.
Alright, let's go fast.
Go fast.
Yeah, 7 hours and 55 minutes.
Okay. So you pick up the pace. You move very quickly through most of the day, stopping briefly to eat, and then continue on again. It gets to the 8-hour point. Now you start at 5 a.m., so it's now 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So if you continue at this pace, you'll need to roll. You got about another 5 hours or so before you get to the Wizard's Tower.
Would this be 5 hours at this fast pace?
Yes.
I'm going to say you said yes.
Yes.
Can we see the tower?
Is your roll perception?
21.
21. Given the crest, you can see leading up, you still probably got another hours of travel sort of leading up over the crest. Perhaps you may be able to see it after that, but at the moment you're still climbing.
Okay. I suggest to the group that if we go back to our normal pace, this will allow us to have a full rest before we come upon the mage tower. And I suggest that maybe we should slow back down so we can do that full.
So, sorry, I've read the rule wrong. So you get 8 hours of travel, regardless of what speed you take, and then every hour after that, you get the travel. So if you want, you can wind it back and go slowly right from the start to the end. But you got 8 hours of travel.
So if we go at a normal pace, we don't suffer any penalty.
No, you're still suffer. So, alright, I'll break
So what,
down
I
for the
drive
moment.
fast all the time?
Well, you have a penalty to your perception checks going
Yeah,
quickly.
it doesn't matter. We can. They're big rocks. We can see them.
Okay. Alright, so you do the fast. You've travelled the full 30 miles today. Now it's 3 p.m. Yeah, you've probably got around another 12 or so miles to go.
Okay.
See that tomorrow. Sleep time.
My suggestion still stands. I suggest we find a place to camp. We just do a quick bit of perimeter scouting, and then rest up for a half day of travel tomorrow, and then see what's in the Wizard Tower.
Yeah, I agree. And same sleep order.
Alright, cool.
Alright,
We got lots of extra food, so yeah. I don't think we've even touched our rations for the extra day. That's expensive.
cool. Oh, well, you guys all set out, and so you sort of just foraging for food and just exploring and taking light duties for the moment.
I'd say we've got lots of food, so we're just setting up camp. Taking a wholesome rest so we can get up bright and early tomorrow.
Okay.
And sleep, sleep.
Well, what's the area that we're choosing to camp in like? Is it a clearing?
Yeah, you guys easily find another clearing similar to where you were. Not a cave this time. Um, but yeah, so you set up your tent off the road in a concealed clearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there canopy cover?
Not in the clearing, no, but next, where the trees and shrubs are, yes.
I would like to pitch the tent near the like, I don't
Yeah.
want to be that big.
Yeah, right in the center, so just right on the edge. Sure. Okay. So you pinch the tent. Same watch order for the evening.
Yep.
Yep. Cool. All right. I'll get Dodrick to do perception. Dodrick, get to roll perception for your watch.
11.
11. All right. So your watch goes on. You feel confident, not seeing anything suspicious. Lefner, you take watch after Dodrick, and I'll get you to roll perception.
7.
7. Likewise, you feel confident that there's nothing threatening out, and your watch finishes. Chug, your turn. 6. The same thing happens. You are also confident that there's nothing out there, and 1, it is now your turn. 10. And your watch also goes on without event. You guys wake up the following morning, ready for the final day's travel. You jump on your horses and continue up the path. After about an hour or so, Chuck, can I get you to make perception, please? 13. You come over the crest at the end, and you can see in the distance. So the setting that you're in, you've got the mountain still pretty steep on your right hand side. You've been following that up for the past few hours travel. Over the crest, you essentially go over the hill, and the path starts to take a downward turn for the remainder of the journey. And well and truly in the distance, you can see what you think is a small pointed tower sort of overlooking a lake. You continue on with your journey, and after 4 or so hours, you start to get close to this tower. As you approach it, you see that the tower on the right is actually marooned off from the rest of the mainland. There's quite a large drop between the land that you're on and the land that the tower is built. You see over this drop, now the drop would be about 100 feet wide at least. So it's very much isolated. And behind the tower, you've still got the rocky cliff edges and such like that. So it's very concealed away from attack or anything like that. On your left, the hill slopes downwards, and towards the bottom of the hill, there's a large lake, and then the more greenery and shrubs that you guys are all familiar with. A single rickety wooden rope bridge connects the towers to the land that you guys are standing on. This land is also quite rocky. Shrubs and trees are seldom at the moment. So you've entered quite an open clearing and are very exposed.
I looked at the bridge and then tell the guys I've heard many stories about bridges like this, and we should avoid it. And I suggest we should look for a cave to get into the south above, or a secret exit. I don't trust the secret.
Douglas has nodded and loudly ponders how far can he go.
Dodrick looks at Chug and agrees. How far can you throw?
I would imagine it would be a matter of 10 feet or so on a good roll. I thought it would be a matter of 10 feet or so.
Well, I got 50 feet of rope.
So what's the deal? There's a bridge, there's an opening. It looks dangerous. And we're hesitant because why? Well, I'm right and I'm lucky, so I'm going for it.
I'm prepared. Actually, I don't need to. So yeah, I'm just down there. What?
Yeah. I'm just going to, delicately go across, stealthily.
Okay. You head over to the bridge, and as you get closer, so it's almost a straight right angle drop. The cliff's edge works its way up, and as you get close to it, you look down. You can see that the underneath of the cliffs just sort of starts to slope and come back around, and you're standing up on the top there. Looking down, you see a bed of rock, probably a good 60, 70 feet down. It's far. The bed of rock looks jagged and rough.
Cool.
The bridge.
I've got a bridge.
Now the bridge is tied. There are two very large rock pillars, almost like stalagmites. No.
Yeah, you're right. So it's not come up from the ground.
Yeah, because tights go down.
Because they have to hold on tight.
Yeah, so stalagmites, they're sort of just appearing up out of the ground, and the rope is fastened around sort of a chiseled path for the rope to sort of sit in without sort of it sliding up and over the top of the stalagmite. The rope I get you to make perception actually, as you look at this bridge.
I've got a 1, but I'm lucky, so I get to re-roll it.
You do. He's so happy he finally gets to do that again.
Got 8.
8. You have a look at the rope, and you can't quite guess the age of it, but it looks, sturdy, you suppose. The wooden planks that have been tied into each of the rope are quite spacious in the way that there is not huge gaps, but for you with little feet, you could misstep and fall through it. A larger person might just sort of stub or trip, but you could actually, at least your leg would fall down. Your torso and such would get caught. Anyway, there's quite a gentle breeze at the moment, and the bridge is sort of gently swaying in the wind.
I'm doing.
Going across, I'll get you to make acrobatics check for me.
How long is the bridge?
about 100 feet.
15.
15. You make it across. It's rickety. Is your character afraid of heights? I assume not by how... no? You're fine with the height?
Horses.
Just horses. Alright, so you happily sort of move along the bridge. A couple of gusts of wind sort of shake the shut of the bridge just a little bit, but you're able to keep your balance. And you do make it across to the other side after a few minutes.
I take my dagger out and I hold it to the boat and start to pretend to carve at it and look at the others with a...
It's 100 feet of air. He's 100 feet away, so I can't quite see what he's doing, but I think he's trying to make love to the boat.
I use my elven eyes to look, but then realize I'm only half elfish, so I can only kind of see what's going on.
I'll get you to make perception one.
Isn't it the one-way bridge? He can't see it.
I got a 13.
A 13. You have a look, you squint in your elven eyes, and you see what looks to be a Doderic motioning towards the rope. Waist height. And discern that perhaps he might be trying to cut it.
Yeah. So, hey, guys, looks like it's time to go. I'll go last and cover the back.
Given that we're at a mage's tent, I just want to approach the bridge and check to see if there's any magical forces that may be interfering or assisting the bridge.
Sorry, say that again.
I want to see is there any magic assisting the bridge in its stability or making it stay there safely.
Okay. Roll Arcana to see if you can see any runes or anything like that.
17.
17. You inspect the stalagmites at either end. You don't see anything, but at the front of the bridge, in very, very small writing, right on the cliff's edge, use your hand, you can dust away part of the gravel and such there. And you can see a couple of small runes there. And you would think that perhaps there is some sort of enchantment here.
Would this be an enchantment to act as a doorbell or to give stability to the bridge?
You would feel, looking at the runes, and with your magical background, you would feel this is to preserve the bridge.
Alright. I confidently walk over the bridge.
Alright, I'll get you to make an acrobatics check, please.
Just because I got a swagger.
Or acrobatics or athletics, your choice.
Acrobatics I am choosing, which is
12.
12.
You make your way across. You get away about halfway or so, and again, just like for Doderic, a gust of wind happens, but a bit stronger. It catches you off balance. The bridge sways, and right before it sort of twists and tumbles with you falling, you're able to rebalance yourself and put the weight back on the other side. And you stabilize, wait a few moments for the bridge to stop moving, heart pounding, having almost fell, and continue along the bridge.
Okay. It does. So I take note of the wind and the direction that it was going, and in an effort to help my friends across, I am going to be at the ready with gusts to blow air in the other direction to try and balance it out if I think that there is going to be some impact.
Okay. Sure. Alright, Juan and Apples. Sorry. Juan and Chug. Yeah. Shush. Who's going next? Chug? Alright. I'll get you to make athletics or acrobatics. Your choice. 15. You make it across. The weight of your armor and just the weight of yourself seems to really pull the bridge down and tighten it. And as a result, it doesn't sway as much as it did for the other two. And you make your way across the bridge. There is a gust as well, but it's relatively small. It doesn't really sway too much. 1. Okay. Acrobatics. Okay.
Just the whole way like an 11.
11. You make your way across. There is a large gust of wind that does send you off balance, and the bridge tumbles and you fall. But you grab onto the rope, and you are now dangling from the bridge, being a little bit twisted, and you're holding yourself there.
Does my gust not do anything?
Ah, you can gust. Sorry. I'll get you to make the check with advantage with James's help.
So another
Another roll.
acrobatic.
Yep.
17.
17. Wind back time a little bit. You try again. The gust happens. You're about to fall, and then James's counter gust sort of helps stabilize the bridge. You're able to keep your footing, and you make it across. All four of you now at the other side of the bridge. You now turn and look, and you can see there's quite large wizard tower made of stone, pointing up into the sky. It's a bit of a pointed roof which sort of outstretches over the edge of the tower as well. Sorry.
Tell the guys a story I once heard of a game that God used to play called Jenga. And I start removing rocks from the side of the tower using my mining.
Now, the tower also has several windows and balconies, although it's seemingly placed random and very scattered amongst the tower, and it looks quite odd in their placement. At the bottom, there is a single door. It's quite large, looks about 10 feet or so wide. Just a single wooden piece with hinges on one side, and there's a small awning coming out and just sort of protecting it from the weather.
Would I have heard of the tower before, or any of it for that matter? Sounds like a large tower.
I get you all to roll history.
Or what?
That's 20.
At 20? 11? Dodrick?
19.
19? So, Dodrick and Juan, you have both heard of this tower. However, Juan, you're quite an expert in who lives here. You know of a mage called Grigor Nemesk who lives here. And he's a mage who practices in portals and he studies geology and such like as well. He's an enchanter by nature, and he lives a life very much of solitude, very rarely sending or going himself to pick up supplies. He would instead send servants um, or collect his supplies by a magical means.
He's a friendly lad from what I know.
Uh,
Kind of, but still not murdering.
he's not someone to follow the law, but he's not someone to seek cruelty either. He's a man who does his own means for his own purposes, and essentially looks after himself. He's dealt with people who have countered him either in a sort of a violent contest or in diplomatic means, depending on um, who has challenged him. There was a story a while ago that you have heard of another mage who insulted his knowledge on portals and insisted that he was doing things wrong and wouldn't back down. And he ended up being banished to a different realm, and there he still remains.
I've been going stories to the guys, and I leave out why I didn't tell them all this earlier. And, get ready and, hey guys, gonna knock on the door. I'm not sure why we're actually sent to the tower, but we should knock and say hi.
Yeah.
Come out and go away in order to
One, knock on the door.
Sorry, I'll get you each to make a perception roll as well. Sorry, I've left out a detail that I should have said earlier.
Nat 20.
At 20?
So a nat 20 as well. I've never rolled nat 20, and now I get 2.
Uh, this tower reeks of smoke. In fact, you can see now that you're closer to the tower, you can actually see out one of the rear windows. There's a heavy plume of smoke pillowing out of a couple of the windows at the rear.
Is it like death smoke, brimstone smoke, weed smoke, cooking goat smoke?
Uh, you, it smells similar to your campfire. It smells like something wooden is burning, or very similar. It doesn't smell like a magical or an off explosion or anything like that. The color and the scent is similar to that of a bushfire or your typical campfires.
I, in a panic, then thinking this, magic wizard who's just walking us the whole way back without any encounters might be in trouble. Knock on the door and say, are you okay? Your house is on fire. Wake up!
Okay. You knock on the door.
Or a bang on the door.
You bang heavily on the door,
Wake up! Your house is on fire.
and there is no response.
What
time of the day is it?
It would be probably early afternoon at this point. You've traveled for 5 hours after waking up. It'd be about 2 or 3 o'clock.
Go knock on the door louder.
Again, no response.
I try the door to see if it's unlocked.
You try the door, and you try and push it, and the door swings open. And inside, you'll have to wait until next week, because we're at 10 o'clock.
Alright. I think you just have to try the door first. You're dumb. You're dead. Even Godric should know that. You just open it up.
I would have gone straight to the pit.
You should have gone, you should have jumped in, made him pick the lock, and then he locks the door on us, and now we're stuck outside. God damn it.
There you go. Well done. You've made it to the tower.
It actually works out nicely doing this Monday, because then 2 weeks is the week before Easter, which means that we're not colluding with that Easter Monday.
Colliding. Yeah.
Yeah, colliding. Sorry.
Cool.
I'm gonna be colluding with it because I'm gonna be driving.
Yep. I'm so glad I didn't have to kill Doderick. Just really wanting to be eaten.
I was trying.
I don't think I did a good enough job in trying to sort of phrase how powerful it was.
Look,
I thought
I'm
you'd be.
pretty wild. Like, I'm definitely going to die one day by doing something silly. Fully acknowledge that.
I was a bit worried with the rock bridge too. Oh, sorry, with the rope bridge. Although one has feather fall. Although if one of you had a fallen, I just expected he would just feather fall way down. Then you have to figure out how to get him back up.
Just got rid of Featherfall.
Oh, that could have been bad.
Well, dying's a bit of fun anyway, so whatever.
I thought you'd be more interested in the bugbears. Totally, ignore them. There were others. You heard conversation and only saw one. That's okay.
Do you have a character sheet or it's done up for that rock, just in case?
Hey, I have monsters like everywhere at the moment. But yes, I do have the rock, and I've altered it. But a rock on its own, like an adult one, is a challenge rating of 12. It has 260 hit points and does about 50 to 40 damage, 40 to 50 damage a hit.
So that's 3 turns for us. I think we can do that.
amongst other things that it does. So,
I can speak with it. Oh, good.
yeah, challenge rating 11, 250 hit points, average of 27 damage a hit. And it
Got all of it. The challenge.
and it does multi-attack, so it gets to make 2 attacks, one with its beak and one with its talons, each turn.
I can take it.
So essentially, we have to all roll initiation really well and aim for its eyes, and then remember
Just
to go
hope to CC it. It's got a rather high AC as well. Yeah.
But when you say challenge rating at 12, we should be around level 12 before engaging.
So your party, as you all join together, that sort of adds your party level, and then you can change your challenge rating around. At the moment, the 2 ogres that you fought were a challenge rating of 2.
Oh,
2.
okay.
So you've had a combat encounter of about a challenge rating of 4. Although with D&D 5e, the more monsters that there are, the harder an encounter gets for you guys. If you're outnumbered, it's very, very hard. Likewise, if you outnumber the enemy, it becomes somewhat easier as well. So,
I still like that our hardest fight to date has been against rats.
now the rug almost killed you.
I don't know, we nearly lost against that goddamn fire thing. Like, it was nearly the end of all of it.
The Hellhound.
No, the fireman. Oh, the fire spirit.
Oh yeah. There's been some good combats.
Take that fucking man.
All right. Oh, that'll do us. I might go get a drink.
The fire thing could be using fire in the kitchen, and that is on the same weekend as the fucking Billy Run. If you want in on that.
It's also the same weekend as LOTD, which I'd also said that I was going to. So I'll have to figure out what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas, you all get invites? No, I don't even know if they do. I just like this shit.
Yeah, I think you know. I don't check Facebook anymore.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't.
Oh, I don't have peace. So.
Anyone know how to get to on the left?
Should be just on the left.
Alright guys, yeah.
No worries, man.
See you.
Catch you later.